Welcome to NCERT School Math. Hi children, I am again with you to share some points related to the last chapter, that is matter in our surroundings. In the previous class, we are discussing a few points related to the chapter. Are you clear with the topic? I am sure you are clear with those points which we studied in the last class. And what were the points? Shall you recall those points? First one, what we studied, that means you know what is matter. No, we have already studied what is matter in small classes. That matter is what? It is anything that occupies space and has mass or volume. And you also know that matter can exist in three forms. Mainly it can exist in three forms. Which are they? It's solid, liquid and gaseous. And while moving to the next point, we studied the characteristic features of matter. That means matter is made up of particles. Everything is matter, and matter is made up of particles. Everything we visualize or we see around us is made up of matter, and this matter is made up of particles. How are these particles arranged in these three forms of matter? While considering solid, we have studied, or by viewing different types of activity, we understood that in case of solid, the particles are arranged so much closer. That is, the particles in a solid are arranged closer to each other. That is, there is no space in between them. So, the attraction between these particles are very much stronger. That is what we study in the first feature. Second one, what study? We told that in case of liquid, the matter can also exist in liquid form. In case of liquid, the particles are not so much closely arranged. The particles are not so much closely arranged. There is a little bit space in between the particles. So there is freedom. There is a freedom to move. That is in the case of liquids. Their force of attraction is little bit smaller, less as compared to that of solids. Then moving to the gaseous form, there also the matter consists of particles. Here also the particles are not firmly attached. There is enough space in them as compared to liquids. In gaseous form, the particles are very free. That means there is they are in molecular, or the force of attraction between these particles is very less, very feeble. That is, there is very less force of attraction between these particles. So in gaseous form, the particles are very free to move, and they freely move around within the. In case of gaseous form, they move very freely. What we discussed, we also discussed the fact, by considering the characteristic features of matter or characteristics of these particles of matter, we told that we studied that there is space in between the particles. Then second one, we noticed that they are continuously moving in case of liquid, or in case of matter which is exists in gaseous form. There is enough space, they are free to move, so they are continuously moving. And how this continuously moving? How can it continuously move? That means in case of an activity, that we are considering activity, when we apply heat or temperature, this temperature or heat makes the particles more free to move. That means they get energy to move. That particles will receive energy to move while heating or while receiving temperature. That means these particles get energy to move, and that energy to move is a kinetic energy. The particles receives this kinetic energy, and this helps the particles to move faster within that particular matter. So that is also we studied in the last class. Then we also studied the next point, that is particles of matter intermix on their own with each other. So when in one activity, when we add salt or sugar in liquid, water, when we added sugar or salt into water, what happened to the sugar or salt? It gets dissolved in particular water, no? Why is it so? That is, these particles of the particular matter, sugar or salt, it gets dissolved in the water. How it can be possible? That we have studied that the water that is a matter, no? In water, the particles are having space in between them. So while we adding sugar or salt to this particular water, what happens? These particles of the salt or sugar that may be in solid form, that occupies the space between the particles of the water, and that's why we are not able to distinguish water or sugar from the particular solution. Sorry, we are not able to distinguish sugar or salt from the particular water. So that's what we studied in last class. That is intermixing of particles of two different types of matter, and that intermixing of particles of two different types of matter. Here, as we consider the salt, that is sugar or salt, and the water, that is a matter, that is matter, solid form as well as a liquid form. Here, the particles intermix. This intermixing of the particles of two different types of matter, the particles intermix, and this process, that phenomenon is known as diffusion. That is also we study. And on heating, the diffusion becomes more faster. As the particles receive more kinetic energy, diffusion becomes more faster. That is, mixing of this becomes more faster. And later we study the particles of matter can attract each other. There is a force of attraction in between them. That's all we discussed in last class. So, I shall ask you some questions. Let me know how many of you can answer it. First one is, which of the following are matter? Please listen. Which of the following are matter? Chair, air, love, smell, hate, almonds, thought, cold, so listen here. Here are few examples, and from these examples you have to distinguish which one is matter. First one, chair. Chair is a matter. It is made up of particles. It exists in which form? This matter exists in solid form. Why we can distinguish chair as a matter? Because chair means that is a matter. That means why is it called matter? Because matter is anything that occupies space and has mass or volume. Here, chair, it occupies space and has mass or volume. So it can be considered as a matter. So chair, that's a matter which exists in solid form. So chair is a matter. Okay. Then air means it is also made up of particles. So air can be also considered as matter. Air occupies space, and so air is also a matter. Then love. Can you distinguish love? That is, love, it doesn't occupy any space or it has no mass or volume. So it cannot be considered as matter. So that is not considered as matter. Then smell. Smell, does it occupy space or does it have any mass or volume? So there also we can't consider smell as matter. Then hate, that is a feeling. So that is also cannot be considered as matter. Then almonds. That is a matter. It can be considered matter. Then thought. That is also feeling. So here also it cannot be considered as matter. Then cold. Cold means also a feeling. That means also not considered as a matter. Then lemon. Lemon, as you know, it's a matter. It's made up of particles. That's in solid form. Then water. It's also an example for matter. Then smell of perfume. The smell of perfume. The smell of perfume. That perfume is a matter. So perfume is a matter and the smell of perfume. As we consider the smell of perfume, it is not a matter, but the smell of perfume, that means the perfume is considered as a matter. And here perfume, smell, that means the smell of perfume, this perfume exists in gaseous form. So that here, in that case, you can consider this as a smell of perfume can be considered as a matter. So this is how we can distinguish the different one as matter, whether it is matter or not. So which of the following are matter? So you know the examples. The next one, give reasons for the following observation. Give a reason for the following observation. So I will repeat the question once more. Give reasons for the following observation. The smell of this the observation. The smell of hot sizzling food reaches you several meters away. But to get the smell from a cold food, you have to go close. Why is it so? That is, the smell of a hot sizzling food reaches you when it is kept from several meters away. It reaches your nose, or you can sense that smell. While considering a food which is in a hot, which is not hot, that is which is cold, which is a cold food, that smell cannot be, or we cannot sense that smell. When we can only sense while we going to close, when we go close to it. Here, what is the reason for that? The first reason is we have studied that while heating or while getting temperature, the particles of matter gets a particular energy to move, and the particular energy is known as kinetic energy. And by means of this kinetic energy, they are able to move freely. And as in the case of this hot food, that hot food smell, are considering hot food smell. Smell of the hot food means that food is a matter. So when it is heated, that food what happens in food? That food which was heated will move into the next state of matter. That is, the smell, the gaseous form. That is, while heating the food or while the food, hot food, while we smell, that means the smell of the food is like an air. It's expanded the air. So we can smell that food. And why the hot food is smell? We can sense the smell of the hot food because while heating the food, the particles of the matter gets a kinetic energy kinetic energy to move, and that moves as what? Moves and diffuses into the air. That means it diffuses into the particles within the air. That is why we smell that food. So that is the first reason only. This is the only first reason. That is, what is it? That is when a hot food is kept, that we can smell this, we can sense the smell because the temperature. That means while heating or while the hot food is kept open, the food. What happens? The food while receiving this heat, the food. Some of the food, food is in the form of matter, no? Some of the food gets into a gaseous form. Some of this matter, this food is in the form of matter. Some of the food gets into a gaseous form, and this gaseous form, the particles of this particular food, which was now in the gaseous form, gets diffused within the particles of air, and that's why we can smell the food, hot food. While in the case of cold food, we can't even smell. When it is kept in several meters away, we can smell only we come closer to it, because there is no temperature received by this particular matter, and so the particles doesn't receive any kinetic energy, and so there is no motion of particles within the particular matter. So the smell cannot be sensed and can be only sensed while we move close to it. Are you clear? Next question. Next one is, a diver is able to cut through water in a swimming pool. Which property of matter does this observation show? So a diver is able to cut through water in a swimming pool. Which property of matter does this observation show? That is, a diver, he can swim by cutting the water, by cutting through the water. Why there? What is the property of the matter here? What property of matter can be seen from this? That is, we have already studied that in between the particles of matter, there is an intermolecular force of attraction. So there is a force of attraction between the particles. So between the particles of matter, that is between the molecules of matter, there occurs a force of attraction, intermolecular force of attraction. So in case of water also, water is a matter. There also the particles of matter have certain intermolecular force of attraction. As compared to solids, it is less. But even then, there is some intermolecular force of attraction. And this intermolecular force of attraction is not so much strong as we are comparing with that of solids. So if we apply some energy, then we will be able to cut the that's intermolecular force of attraction between these particles. So the diver is able to overcome those forces as he can break that water while swimming in a swimming pool. Have you understood? That is, there is an intermolecular force of attraction between the water molecules, and the water that's intermolecular force of attraction between the particles in a water molecule is not very much strong as compared to solids. So a diver can easily cut through this water while swimming, because that he can break that intermolecular force of attraction, which is very feeble as we are comparing it to the solids. Are you clear? So these three questions, I am sure that you are clear with these three questions. Let us move to the next topic. That is, now in this class we are discussing about the states of matter. So we were discussing those points and questions related to the last topic. Now the new topic we are going to deal is with, that is, states of matter. Have you understood the states of matter? You have already studied the states of matter. That means matter exists mainly in three forms, it is solid, liquid and gas. Then what are the peculiarities of these three forms? That is what we are going to study. Are you clear with the topic? Let's move to the next one. So listen children, matter exists mainly in three forms, it is solid, liquid and gas. And these three states of matter, how is it possible? It occurs due to the variation characteristics of particles of matter. So we studied that matter is made up of particles. So there occurs a variation in the characteristics of these particles of matter. There is a variation occurring in this character while considering the characteristics of particles of matter. It can be classified on three forms, it is solid, liquid and gas. By considering the characteristics of particles of matter, matter can be considered into solid, liquid and gas. So these states of matter arise due to the variation in the characteristics of particles of matter. So when variations occurs in the characteristics of particles of matter, matter can be existed in mainly in three forms, it is solid, liquid and gas. That's why we can see different kinds of matter within us, or within our surroundings. Then next one, first we are going to study what do you know about solid state. For example, consider this pen or a book or a needle or anything else which is in a solid form. You know, this can be considered this matter. Matter is anything that occupies space and has mass or volume. So this can be considered a matter. And what is meant by solid state? That means the solid state means this particular matter has a definite shape. It has a definite shape. It has fixed boundaries or a fixed volume. Are you sure? And we can, what happens if they are hammered, pulled or dropped? Are these capable of diffusing into each other? So these are the questions asked over this activity. If you understand what fact, this is which have a definite shape and a fixed volume. That means the matter that has a definite shape, distinct boundaries and fixed volume and has negligible compressibility. That is, means it cannot be compressed. This particular matter, it cannot be compressed. So these are the characteristics of a matter which exists in solid state. So a matter which exists in solid state has a definite shape. That means definite shape, and it has it occurs a definite shape, and it has fixed volume as well as distinct boundaries. And while considering the compressibility, it has negligible compressibility. It cannot be compressed. That is the case. What you consider while studying the characteristics of matter which exists in form of solid state. Then these solids have a tendency to maintain their shape when subject to outside force. That means this can maintain its shape even when subject to outside force. That is, if a force is applied with this solid, that is the matter which is in solid, if a force is applied to this solid, this can retain its shape. there occurs no change in its shape. So it can maintain their shape, or it can retain their shape even when a force is applied to it, an outside force is applied to it. And it can break under force, but it's difficult to change their shape, so they are rigid. So we can break this one. This solid can be broken by applying more force, but we can't change its shape. That means they are very rigid. So what are the characteristics of solids? That is, matter can exist in three forms. First one is solid form. What are the peculiarities of solid form? That is, by studying the solid form, first one is it has a definite shape, distinct boundaries, as well as fixed volume. Second one is what is about compressibility? It has negligible compressibility. It has definite shape, no? It has definite shape. It has definite shape. Then what about its volume? Its volume is fixed volume. No? Then its compressibility, it has less compressibility or negligible compressibility. It cannot be compressed easily. Then it can retain or maintain its shape even though an outside force is given. Even though an outside force is given, it can retain or maintain its shape. That means they are rigid. So these are the peculiarities of a matter which exists in solid form. Now moving to an activity. While considering a rubber band, can it change its shape on stretching? When you stretch a rubber band, will its shape change? No, its shape now will not. It becomes more flexible, or it becomes loose. No, is it a solid? Yeah, it is a solid because it retained or maintained shape. It retained or maintained its shape after releasing. So when we stretch a rubber band, that it becomes more flexible, and when we release a particular rubber band, it goes back to its same shape. No, that is, the shape is not changing. That is rigid. That means it is an example for matter which exists in solid state. So that is about rubber band. Then what about sugar and salt? We have already explained, we have already studied in an experiment. What happened to the sugar or salt when added to water? It gets dissolved within the water. Now, what about the sugar and salt when kept in different jars? These take the shape of the jar. Are they solid? So when sugar and salt are kept in different jars, they take the shape of a jar. Are they solid? Yeah, they are solid, because as we are considering sugar and salt, particularly as sugar or salt, they are solid in shape. No, while we are putting those particles or those matter within a jar or anything else, it takes the shape of a jar. Even then it is in solid form. That means as we consider the individual sugar or salt, the crystals remain as fixed. That means there is no, they are rigid. We can't, what happens to, we can't even change its shape. No, it has a definite shape. So we can consider it as a solid. But if you put in a plate or in a jar, there also its shape or structure is not changing. It is just only kept in a jar. That is, the shape of each individual sugar or salt crystal remains fixed, whether we take in our hand or put in a plate or in a jar. Understood? The first example, while considering the rubber band, a rubber band is in solid shape. That means we can't change the shape permanently. That means while stretching the rubber band, it comes back. While stretching is lost, while stretching, it becomes flexible. But when you release the stretching, it comes back to its original shape. So that is also the example for a solid. That is, a rubber band changes shape under force and regains its same shape when the force is released. That means the rubber band when force is released, what happens? It comes back to its original position. So that is also an example for matter which exists in solid form. The second case, while considering the shape of each individual sugar or salt crystals, it remains fixed. There occurs no change in shape of the salt or sugar. While we are keeping this salt or sugar in particular jar or container, will the shape of the sugar or salt changes? No, it remains same, because it is having a definite shape. That means this but not even if this type is kept in a plate or a jar, it maintains its shape. That means it is also existing in a solid form. And the last one example, while considering a sponge. Sponge. What about a sponge? Is it a solvent? Have you able to compress it? Yes, we can compress a solid. No, we have told that we have studied that solids have less compressibility, and it's negligible compressibility. While considering sponges, in case of sponges, there are minute pores or holes in between them. So air gets filled in these holes. As we are considering the sponge, there are minute holes within the sponges, and the air gets filled in these holes. So while we are compressing the sponge, the air expels out. That is why we are able to compress sponge, and while releasing that, it comes or it retains its shape. So there also the sponge can also be considered as a solid. So that is what the examples for a solid state. Have you understood? So a sponge has minute holes in which air is trapped. When we press it, the air is expelled out and we are able to compress it. Are you clear with it? So solid, what are the peculiar features of solid? The matter which exists in solid state, liquid state and gaseous form, and that different forms are due to the variation characteristics of particles of matter. When there is a variation occurring in the characteristics of particles of matter, it can exist in many forms, mainly in three forms. And what all concern is solid, it has a definite shape and fixed volume, its compressibility is negligible or less, and it has distinct boundaries and it has shape can be retained or maintained. That means it is rigid. Then next one, moving to the liquid state. Hey children, are you following me? So listen, next we are going to move to the next one, that is the second form of matter, that is liquid state. Before that, we can consider some examples. Please listen to this. Water, cooking oil, milk, juice, cold drink. What? Water, cooking oil, milk, juice, cool drinks. Then containers of different shapes. You have to collect the following. Which are with the following? You have to collect water, cooking oil, milk, juice, and cold drinks. Then cold drinks. Then have to take the containers of different shapes. Then 50 ml mark should be put on these containers. Then what happened to liquids if these liquids are spilled on the floor? So all of our 50 ml, and if it is spilled on the floor, what happens to the particular liquids? Does the volume remain the same? Does the shape of the liquid remain the same? Does the volume remain the same? Does the shape of the liquid remain the same? When you pour the liquid from one container to another, does it flow easily? So what are the questions? First one is, you have to consider the following liquids and have to take certain containers of different shapes, and you have to you have to mark the 50 ml mark on these containers. Then they are asking first of all the question, what will happen if these liquids are spilled on the floor? When these particular liquids are spilled on the floor, what happens to this? You have to understand these liquids are of having different features. So while it's split in the floor, what happens? Those liquids which are split on the floor, some may flow very easily, but others may not flow so much easily. So that is the difference there. While considering water, when it is split on the floor, it moves very easily. While considering the cooking oil, will it be more easily? Will it more easily split on the floor as we are considering water? No, it becomes some difficult, no, for the cooking oil to split on the floor. It doesn't move so easily as we are considering while comparing with the water. So next question is, does the shape of the liquid remain the same? Does the shape of the liquid remain the same? While keeping these particular liquids in different containers of different shapes, will all these liquids remain the same shape? No, because liquids have the capacity to retain the shape of the container into which it is kept in. No, it is what liquid. No, that is liquids have the capacity to retain the shape of the container on which it is kept in. Next one, when you pour the liquid from one container to another, does it flow easily? So here also, that the different characteristic features of liquids we have to consider. From above all the observations, we have to understand the fact that liquids have no fixed shape but have a fixed volume. We have considered, you have done this experiment by using a big container which is marked as 50 ml. So we are taking all these liquids of the same volume. So their volume same, but their characters may be different. But one thing you have to consider, while splitting the particular liquids on the floor, all are of the same volume or having the same volume, because we are here considering the same volume, we are considering the same volume. So that means liquids have a fixed volume. Here volume does not change while it is kept in a container, and when it is split on the floor, the volume remains the same. So liquids have the same volume, or have the fixed volume. Understood? While the liquid is kept in a container or while it is split on the floor, this particular liquid, that is 50 ml is there, then 50 ml will be on the floor itself. Understood? So there is a fixed volume for liquids. Second one, they doesn't have a shape. They doesn't have fixed shape. While considering liquids, they doesn't have fixed shape. You have noticed that they took the shape of the container into which it is filled in. No. So they don't have fixed shape, but they have a fixed volume. That is the second feature. They doesn't have fixed shape, but they have a fixed volume. Then that means they took the shape of a container into which it is kept. That means liquids flow and change shape, so they are not rigid but can be called fluid. It can flow, no? Liquids can flow and can change shape. It can flow. Liquids are having the capacity to flow. It can flow and it changes shape. That means it is not rigid. It's not rigid. It can be called as a fluid. That means liquids can flow and it can change its shape. That means it is not rigid, and so it is called as a fluid. So liquid can be called as a fluid by the capacity to why it can be called as a fluid, because it has a capacity to flow and it can change its shape. That is, it must not rigid as we compare to solids. So these are the particular features of liquids. Then we saw that liquids and solids can diffuse into liquids. The activities above mentioned, we have seen that liquids can diffuse, solids also diffuse into liquids. That is, for in the activity where sugar is dissolved in water, that is solid, sugar is in solid form. That particular solid is dissolved in water, solid diffuses into liquid, that is water. Solid means sugar, sugar into water, the solid diffuses in water. In other case, that solids diffuse in liquids. The next one, the liquids can diffuse into liquids. Liquids can diffuse in liquids. Another activity we have considered that when water is taken and ink is dropped into the liquid. Ink is dropped into water. So here water is also in liquid form, ink is also in liquid form. So liquids diffuse into liquids. So here solids and liquids can diffuse into liquids. That is the main point you have to understand. So what is another property? Solids as well as liquids can diffuse into liquids. Understood? So liquids can diffuse solids as well as liquids. So diffusion is a property, means it is intermixing of particles of matter of two different types. No, here solid is a matter, liquid is also matter. So here the particles of this matter intermix. That means solids and liquids can diffuse into liquids. Understood? Next one, the gases from atmosphere diffuse and dissolve in water. So gases in atmosphere, gas in atmosphere, we can consider the carbon dioxide, oxygen, etc. These gases, what happens? They get diffused, they get mixed and dissolved in water. So gases also diffuses in water. Gases can diffuse and dissolve in water. While considering gases also can diffuse in liquids. So that is about children. We were discussing that solids as well as liquids can diffuse into liquids. For that we consider examples, that is sugar dissolved in water as well as ink dissolved in water. So these here solid dissolves in or diffuses in liquids as well as liquids also diffuse in liquids. Now consider the gaseous form, the matter which exists in gaseous form. For example, gases from atmosphere diffuses and dissolve in water. That is, for example, oxygen and carbon dioxide. Those are the gases mainly present. That is mainly present in air. Now, these gases, especially oxygen, carbon dioxide, they are essential for the survival of aquatic animals and aquatic animals as well as plants. Here, aquatic animals and plants, where they reside? They are seen in water. So, in water, these gases diffuses from the air. The oxygen and carbon dioxide diffuses from air into the water, and that is essential for those animals, aquatic animals and plants within the water. So, all living creatures need to breathe for survival. That aquatic animals can breathe underwater due to the presence of dissolved oxygen water. So, understand the point? We studied that the gases diffuses and dissolves in water. That means all aquatic animals and plants, they breathe, or they will be able to survive within the aquatic environment. How? Because these gases, that means mainly oxygen, carbon dioxide, diffuses from the air and dissolves in water. So they are able to breathe underwater with the presence of the oxygen which is dissolved in water. Are you able to understand? Are you able to follow me? So listen, thus we can conclude that solids, liquids and gases can diffuse into liquids. So the common one is that solids, liquids as well as gases can diffuse into liquids. So we have studied now solids, liquids and gases can diffuse in water. So first case we studied solids and liquids can diffuse in water. Now we studied that gases can also diffuse in water. Then you have to understand one fact, the rate of diffusion is different in different forms. That is, rate of diffusion of liquids is higher than that of solids. So in solid state diffusion in water is less, as well as diffusion rate in water is higher than that of solids. That is due to the fact in liquid state the particles can move freely and have greater space in between these particles. So as we are considering the matter in the solid form, while considering the matter in the liquid form, which one diffuses more in liquids? Yeah, the liquid, that is matter which is in liquid form diffuses more easily in water. So the rate of diffusion in liquids is greater as compared to liquids. Rate of diffusion in liquids is greater. Rate of diffusion in liquids is greater. While considering solids, rate of diffusion is greater in liquids. Greater in liquids. While considering liquids and solids, rate of diffusion is greater in liquids because in liquids the particles are not so much closely attached. There is in the molecular force of attraction is very much low. So there is enough space for the particles to move. So the diffusion, it can diffuse easily as compared to solids. That is what about solids. Next, moving to the gaseous state. So I am concluding this topic. It's not yet finished. We can continue its next class. If I am taking the remaining portions, it will be very hard to follow, or you will not be able to follow those facts. So it's enough for today. We shall continue this on the next class. I hope you all have understood. If there is any doubt, please comment. And if you find this class as useful, please to subscribe my channel, share. Let's see in the next class. Till it's bye from me. Thank you.